let's talk other moves, because that's the third part here. There are two other moves that I think the Steelers can make before the trade deadline to send some guys out and really maybe even use to add some talent here, whether it's wide receiver or another position. They're both on the defensive side of the football. Neither of them are big names, but both of them probably have decent price tags, because around the NFL right now, things are not looking good. When the Steelers signed CJ Henderson to their 53-man roster, it was because the market for him was big and they thought he was going to get poached. In my eyes, Corey Trice is coming back. The Steelers have James Pierre, and James Pierre will remain over CJ Henderson. The only reason that they kept CJ Henderson is because they knew he had a price tag. Cool. Let's sell the price tag. I think CJ Henderson could find himself in a trade package for the Pittsburgh Steelers or with the Pittsburgh Steelers by tomorrow at 4 p.m. I have really nothing wrong with it, no matter what they get. Doesn't matter. You trade him for a 7th-round pick, cool. You just got a 7th-round pick. Maybe you pull out another Spencer Anderson. Maybe you move that up and find another Connor Hayward. I have no idea. But that's okay, because right now CJ Henderson is only going to be inactive on Sundays, and he's never going to play. And at some point, you're probably going to get rid of him to create space for other guys who are coming back. CJ Henderson, I think you could get something for. I personally think the way Omar Khan moves and the moves that he has pulled off in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers ended up saying, we just traded CJ Henderson for a 5th-round pick. And you're going, what? How did that happen? Doesn't make any sense, but I'm just saying, keep the hope alive. The second one is Damontae Kazee. And I've been all season long saying Damontae Kazee is not a guy the Steelers would trade. But where they sit here right now, I mean, Terrell Edmunds is playing fine. Deshaun Elliott is a superstar. Minkah Fitzpatrick is Minkah Fitzpatrick. Everything looks very okay on defense. You got Cam Sutton coming back that could play safety. You have Beanie Bishop, who was taken off and could take a workload at nickelback if you need Cam Sutton to go play safety. You got Corey Trice. I mean, if you could get something for Damontae Kazee, why wouldn't you get something for Damontae Kazee, right? It just makes sense. There are certain guys that definitely add value to your team, but might add more value in a trade package and might set you up for the future where you could go, okay, this is the risk worth taking, and that's okay. And I think Kazee could go for a 5th-round pick, and I think you could get something for him for a team that desperately needs a safety wherever, and somebody who's really hunting but just suffered a big injury. And I don't know who those teams are right now, but I would imagine those teams are out there. CJ Henderson, I could see going for anything and everything. Kazee, I could see the Steelers tossing his name out there for some type of package and saying, what if we sprinkled in Damontae Kazee? You think that helps? You think that lowers the price tag for this guy or that guy? Only because they got Terrell Edmunds. They're getting Cam Sutton back. They have Beanie Bishop. They're getting Corey Trice back. Well, right now, the Steelers are healthy and they're feeling good. And I get it. You want more options? I think he got them. I think you got the options you need, and you'll figure it out no matter. At some point, you have too many options, and that's where the Steelers are going to find themselves. Those are my two names. CJ Henderson and Damontae Kazee, I think, could find themselves outside of Pittsburgh over the next, 36 hours or something like that. That's where I stand with those two. Agree, disagree? I mean, any thoughts?
Yeah, the CJ Henderson one is interesting. It's almost like finding a penny on the ground and finding out it's some valuable penny. It's not like you're going to win the lottery. It's not like it's going to change your life, but you might get $20 and be able to go have a nice meal, right? Nice, probably fast food meal with the way.
What are you getting for $20?
You're getting a Subway sandwich is essentially what you're getting at this point. But hey, listen, for finding a penny on the ground and getting the ground, you're not mad at that. And that's exactly what you got with CJ Henderson. You got a guy that for a couple weeks became an option, a nice break glass in case of emergency option. But now with Cam Sutton coming back, with Corey Trice coming back, you don't necessarily need it. So you can turn that into something more valuable. It's almost like that whole paperclip analogy. If I start with a paperclip and I start trading it up, do I eventually get to a house? You're not going to get to a house by trading CJ Henderson and continuing to move up, but you might get something that's going to help you out in the draft, or it could be part of a trade package in the future. So I don't hate that at all. And as far as the Damontae Kazee thing, yeah, we all like Damontae Kazee. He brings something valuable to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But once again, if you can continue to help yourself in the future by getting rid of a piece that might not be necessary this season, you go ahead and do it. I don't think Omar Khan's going to do any of these trades for nothing, but I think if he's able to get some decent value back, being that because other teams are desperate or really need to fill that position or really want that player, then it makes sense to be able to go out and do something like that. Because if not, then you're just going to hold down pat and say, all right, well, we don't need that we don't need that fifth, sixth, or seventh round pick. Whenever that could eventually turn into, who knows, maybe a Mason McCormick down the line. I mean,
yes,
you could go out and get somebody, because Omar Khan has shown that he's really good with these depth in the drafts in the early years of him being able to take over for Kevin Colbert.
I agree. And just like the Steelers don't have to go out and make those phone calls, you know, just like DK Metcalf, just like Cooper Kupp, just like Adam Thielen and Cortland Sutton, teams will call the Steelers and say, hey, is this guy available? Hey, is that guy? I would imagine everybody's available. Hey, is Justin available? I would imagine they get calls for Justin Fields. I would imagine they get calls for Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. I would imagine they get calls for potentially Broderick Jones. I would imagine they get calls for George Pickens. Definitely George Pickens. I would imagine they get calls for Minka. I would imagine Minka's on the list of people that they get phone calls for, and all those guys.
Yeah, and those calls could be as quick as, hey, is George available? No. All right, thanks. I'm gonna hang up now. Like, that's
literally it. That's how fast those phone calls happen. But they'll get phone calls, and people will call and check. And I would imagine that KZ and Henderson are two names that teams call about. And I would also imagine that the Steelers look at a guy like Henderson and say, just, you know, send some feelers, see what's out there, see if anybody's interested. And maybe somebody is, because teams need corners, and they have one in CJ Henderson.